was really, I'll tell you more about our meeting. He's really great. Oh, there was? My daughter is the only one that plays Pokemon. I don't even know how to do it.
Hello?
Hi, Gary. We're just going to get started here.
Okay, thank you.
So welcome to the Provo Municipal Council meeting. It is 5:45 on Tuesday, August 2nd. We're gathered at the City Center Municipal Council chambers at 351 West Center in Provo, Utah. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube, Provo Channel 17, where it will also be available for on-demand viewing. The council requests that citizens help maintain the decorum of the meeting by turning off electronic devices, being respectful to the council and others, and refraining from applauding during the proceedings of the meeting. We'll begin with a roll call. Mr. Parker?
Wayne Parker.
John Curtis.
Dave Connect.
Kay Van Buren.
George Stewart.
Kim Santiago?
Dave Sewell.
David Harding.
Brian Jones.
Gary Winterton.
And Gary's joining us remotely. So we will have an opening prayer by Jimmy McKnight, and then the Pledge of Allegiance by Mark Olgren.
Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to participate in this public process, and for those who are willing to volunteer their time as citizens of the community and those on the council. Please bless that the decisions and discussions will be guided in the best interest of the citizens, and we ask that for thy blessing on this community and those who serve here, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
So will the audience and the council, elected officials, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't think we have any meeting minutes. I don't see any to be approved. So the public comment segment of this meeting is an opportunity for any person in attendance to comment on matters that do not appear as a public hearing on the agenda. Items not scheduled for a public hearing are item number 1. Please begin your comments by stating your name and city of residence. Should you not wish to speak, but instead to have your statement read aloud by the recorder, please provide her with a copy of that statement. The council and administration will not take any formal action on the matters that arise during public comment. Those with comments are invited to approach the podium.
Hello, I'm Carol Walker. I have property at 90 West Center. I actually live in Orem. I just want to say thank you. So appreciate all you do for our community, mayor and council. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to tell you how much I and my family appreciate all you do for us. Thank you.
Thank you. That's my favorite public comment. I know. Can we rewind? Okay, great. Other comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting. Our one and only item tonight of business is a joint resolution of the Provo City Mayor and Municipal Council outlining their concern with the recent proposed standards from the Utah Department of Environmental Quality related to the impact of the wastewater effluent on the chemistry of Utah Lake. And this item will be presented by our Public Works Director, Dave Decker.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the council for taking the time this afternoon to listen to this topic. We spent quite a bit of time in the work session and had a very thorough discussion about it. And I'm not going to take the time to go back through that same presentation, but I want to summarize just a couple of things with the council in the regular session. And I'm going to ask Bryce if we could go to the summary item and then also to the resolution itself. I think to try to consolidate the concerns that Public Works has with what is called at DEQ, there's an integrated report that is open for comments right now. Originally, when we scheduled this with the council, that deadline was August 9th. As we indicated, that's been moved back to September 8th. But we felt an urgency for the council to understand some of the impacts, the potential impacts that this integrated report may have or would likely have on Provo City and the residents. We're concerned also with reports that we get back from professionals. Some of those professionals are consultants that Provo City has hired relative to a master plan at the treatment plant. We've also heard professionals from academic institutions that are indicating that the report is inadequate, it's incomplete, and that the report is going to be used for further regulations and tightening down on the effluent that's going out of our treatment plant, and will likely have a major impact. I think to summarize really what the concerns are that we're hearing from our consultants and from the academic sources is that the environmental process, that the environmental regulations that we're meeting may have some unintended consequences that have not been thoroughly vetted with the scientific community. And we may be jumping the gun a little bit on some of the regulations. And I feel given the dollars that we'll talk about here in just a second, I feel that it's our responsibility as the Public Works Department to make you aware and make the citizens aware of those potential impacts. And particularly when the end results are in question, I think we have an obligation to ask some pretty serious questions about where those regulations are going to take us. So as far as just a quick summary on the dollar amounts, and you heard quite a bit today from our consultants on the master plan at the treatment plant. Right now, we're projected to spend about $52 million between now and 2025 at the treatment plant. And those regulations, or that dollar amount, is to meet the regulations that have been set forth by DEQ. And that is the 1 part per million in phosphorus and the 10 parts per million in the nitrogen. Between 2025 and 2035, we'll spend another $35 million at the treatment plant to meet those regulations. That'll be primarily for capacity increases at the treatment plant. And depending on if DEQ increases those regulations, which they have alluded to just a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, they had a meeting at the Utah Lake Commission, and were very straightforward with questions that were posed to DEQ about further regulations, and whether that goes to 0.1 phosphorus and 1 part per million in nutrients. That's still unknown, but clearly they're going to take a second step based on their report to the Utah Lake Commission. If that's the case, we will probably spend another $20 million by 2035 at the treatment plant. So we're in the range of $100 million if that second step is taken. Even without the second step, by 2035, we're going to spend $87 million at the treatment plant. It's significant. I do have to tell you, as I indicated before, some of those improvements at the treatment plant would be needed anyway. The treatment plant is old. We've reported in the past to the council that there are needed upgrades at the treatment plant, and we've had several discussions with the council. But my concern is that the regulations will consolidate the financial needs very quickly for Provo residents. To try to put that in a little bit of perspective, again, on this page, I've divided just the $52 million by our current population, 120,000 people. That comes out to $1.80 per month per person that will be passed on to each resident. That's not per connection, that's per person. So a family of 5, typically a typical calculation, that comes out to just over $9 a month per connection. As I indicated in the work session, Jimmy did the calculation a little bit differently and took that dollar amount, $52 million, and divided it by 18,000 connections that we currently have. And that comes out to an average of just over $12 per connection that we would have to increase the fees to achieve the regulations that DEQ is passing on. That's pretty significant. And again, I think it's certainly our obligation as the Public Works Department to present that information to you and make sure that you're aware of that. So if we can go to the resolution, Bryce, if you don't mind. So the resolution that's before the council tonight is asking for some time, some delay in implementing the integrated report that DEQ has. And again, I think the resolution expresses the concerns that we've heard from both the scientific community, from consultants that we've engaged, and feel that it is inadequate and incomplete, and scientific evidence that has been presented not only to us but to other agencies has largely been ignored. And again, we're concerned about what the end results will produce at Utah Lake. We're getting told that even with the removal of the phosphorus and the nitrates with the new regulations, we're getting told that algae blooms will continue to happen at Utah Lake, and that will not make significant changes. We're also told that some unintended consequences may occur because of those tightening regulations. So we're asking Division of Environmental Quality to back up and take some time with some of the scientific community and make sure that we have a plan, a long-term plan, so that communities like Provo can plan financially, not just our capital improvements, but financially, and make sure that we understand what the results will be, and there will be some accountability for those results. So at this point, I think that's the end of the resolution, or excuse me, the end of the presentation that I had planned tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
I have a question.
Mr. Connect?
So you mentioned like 18,000 connections or customers.
Yes.
I just remember off the top of my head, I thought 32 or 3,000 electric customers. So
What's the difference?
yeah,
So the electric system, and I wish Travis was here to help, but many of the multifamily dwellings have individual electric meters, and so you'll have 100 unit complex, and they'll have 100 electric meters. Well, we'll only have one sewer connection into that building. And so that's the difference, that's the significant difference that you see in development.
Of course, we've talked about how we need to kind of change our billing to account for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's some other issues, but that explains the physical differences in those connections, the differences in the numbers.
Are there other questions for Mr. Decker? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll bring it back to the council for discussion or a motion. Mr. Harding?
With the change in the public comment period from just a few days, gives us another month, and then also with the explanation that the Division of Water Quality is willing to meet with us and can do so in the next month, I move that we continue this item until the September 6th meeting, to give us an opportunity to meet with the Division of Water Quality to hear from them, and we can ask them questions before we make our decision on this motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? George? Mr. Stewart, was there a second? Okay, thank you. And the deadline for submitting comments is September 9th? 8th. So we would have this meeting at 2 days before that. Does that give adequate time to deliver the resolution and to become part of that comment period?
I think we could get the resolution if there were further written comments that the council wanted to do at that time. The resolution itself could be delivered.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
So will the delay change your feelings about supporting the resolution? Are we not supporting this resolution, or are we just want to get more information, or what's the purpose for not doing this resolution and still have that time for comment?
Did Mr. Knick want to respond? Okay, sorry, I thought he had something to say. For me, yes. If there's more information and we hear some things, we hear some answers to some of the questions that were posed earlier today, theoretically, it could change my position on this resolution. You know, if we're being asked to, I don't remember how it was worded, but express our concern. You know, if we can get some more information, I do feel like there's the potential for it to affect at least my opinion. I've heard some questions raised, and it might be I'd appreciate the opportunity for them to answer some of those questions before I join this resolution.
Mr. Sewell?
I guess I look at it a little bit differently. I feel like our water experts are saying that they're not seeing enough hard science to justify, the tens of millions of dollars that it would take. So the way I'm looking at it is more, I would like them to see enough studies done to have a better feeling about this. So I'm personally okay with the going ahead with the resolution, because to me, all it's really saying is we'd like to see some more evidence before we support committing this amount of money.
Mr. Mayor?
I think it's important to note what the resolution is asking, which is just simply to slow down.
Yeah.
And get our team on board. And we're not asking for them not to do it, but to just go a little bit slower.
Mr. Connect?
So I'll just read from part of it. It says, if the necessary additional scientific research does not eventually support standards and regulations that require infrastructure changes in order to make justifiable improvements in the quality of Utah Lake, Provo requests that affected entities be allowed adequate time to appropriately budget for the required changes. So I'm good with the resolution.
Mr. Harding?
I imagine the scientists at the Department or Division of Water Quality, I imagine that they disagree with with what we've been presented today, just like the people who presented to us today disagreed with DWQ. And so I personally think it'd be better to hear from both sides before making our decision. So that's where I'm at.
Mr. Stewart?
I seconded the motion for the purpose of discussion, but I would rather do it tonight, personally. I think it's too close to the end of comment period time to wait clear to the 2nd, or to the 6th, excuse me.
Mr. Harding?
I'd be willing to amend my motion to move it at least 2 weeks. I don't know how soon we could get the people from water quality in here, but if it's the concern that the 6th is too close to the 8th, I'd be willing just to postpone it the 2 weeks. Do we know how soon we could? Okay.
Mr. Van Buren?
I think, given what the resolution says, that we are asking for a delayed inaction, and then if it proves out that those statistics are true, that we have some time to prepare for it budget-wise, I think this resolution stands now just like it's going to stand in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or I think we're asking for that. I personally think we need to support our staff and our departments, and they've asked us for this, and I don't see how it will hurt anything to go ahead and pass this tonight and let the state know and let the Department of Environmental Quality know that we do have some feelings, and they need to hear them and address them. So I think it'd be better to put them on notice now so they can address that if they'd like, instead of wait for a while and then surprise them. But I think a resolution now will let them know where we are and how we feel, and then they can address it.
Are there other comments? I'm assuming that they'll come with their best argument, for why they've done it right. And I think that we could still have them come, whether we pass the resolution tonight or not. I think they can still come and give us their information. I feel like I've heard from our water experts and also from the doctors that were there today, the Utah Lake Commission. They're part of that. Jordan, I don't know the whole long list of it, but they're doing their own study, and we won't have results back from that until February or March. This is going to be a process, and so I think I'm personally comfortable sending the message that we need more information. I don't feel like I have enough information right now to feel comfortable with what's being recommended from the DEQ, and it's a huge price tag. And we learned from the gentleman that Mark Olgren introduced to us that they spent $85 million, and now they're going to have to spend another $100 million to bring it from 1.0 to 0.1. And I think that it's a good thing to send the message to them that if they're going to require that we spend this kind of money, that they need to have their facts straight, and they need to bring some compelling evidence that our professionals are comfortable with. And so I'm comfortable sending that message tonight personally. But Mr. Sewell?
I was just wondering, is Mr. Winterton dialed in to this discussion?
He is. Are you still there, Mr. Winterton?
Yes, I am.
Did you have a comment? Did you want to?
No, I'm in support of the resolution as it is written right now. I don't think that we're asking for anything different other than let's just study it and make sure we want to emphasize that we want to study this better before we put in this kind of money.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments? Those in favor?
Well,
Of the resolution, wasn't there of the motion? So the motion, so we restate, the motion was
The motion was merely to continue this until the 6th of September so we could hear from the Division of Water Quality.
Okay, and then the second was by Mr. Stewart. So, any further comment on the motion? Okay, those in favor? Thank you, Mr. Harding. Those opposed? Mr. Winter?
Yes, opposed.
Okay, so those in favor are Mr. Harding, and those opposed are Mr. Winterton, Mr. Sewell, Ms. Santiago, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Van Buren, and Mr. Connect. So entertain another motion or more comment? Thank you, Mr. Connect.
I move that we approve the resolution before us as written.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Van Buren. Any conversation on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote then. Those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you. So those in favor are Mr. Connect, Mr. Van Buren, Mr. Stewart, Ms. Santiago, Mr. Sewell, Mr. Winterton, and those opposed are Mr. Harding. So I will now call for a motion to...
Madam Chair, let me just
Like-
clarify, I'll be adding my name to that as well.
Okay. Thank
Obviously,
you,
I
Mayor.
don't vote on it, but that'll be a joint resolution.
Okay, great. Thank you. Look for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. And second, Mr. Van Buren. Those in favor?
Aye.
And the voting is unanimous in the affirmative. Thank you.